All right, guys, let's do a bound, then let's get running round.
Yes, good hustle. Keep it going.
Are we listening? Are we listening?
Well, look, Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast. For anyone who doesn't know, Mike is Unorthodox Nutrition, nutritionist, predominantly working with MMA fighters, jiu-jitsu athletes, and combat athletes generally. I'll tell you what, instead of me introducing you, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll dive in.
You pretty much done it there, mate. It's a quick one. So, yeah, Unorthodox Nutrition, which is an absolute horrendous name for a combat sports nutritionist, but it was 17 years ago, so we're kind of stuck with it now. It kind of implies that I do something really crazy, that really wild and out there, when I don't. I just really like the word unorthodox when I was coming up with the brand name, so it just kind of stuck. Been coaching now for nearly 17 years. Everything from white belts all the way through to IBJJF Worlds, Polaris champs, one stuff, Grapple Fest, Grapple Max, UFC, Olympics, Commonwealth, pretty much anything and everything really when it comes to combat sport, which is predominantly most of my clients are MMA or jiu-jitsu. But I still even do stuff like High Rocks is getting bigger and bigger, which is the next Pokemon evolution from CrossFit, as far as I can understand it. And all other kinds of stuff, even stuff I do quite a lot in Paralympic table tennis, which is really random.
Wow.
But so I work with most of the UK team for the Paralympic table tennis team. And then a scream stick fight and stuff like that. I've got a couple of clients in that, and a bit work with a couple of Premiership footballers over my time, but I don't really do that now, mainly because I couldn't tell you a single Premiership footballer if I bumped into them. But yeah, so pretty long career as far as things go in jiu-jitsu. But loving every second of it, even to this day. So here we are.
So how long have you been training jiu-jitsu?
Probably about 10 years on and off, with a 6.5-year gap in the middle.
Right, okay. What belt are you?
Blue belt.
And you're up in, where are you based?
In Middlesbrough, so Stealth Teesside is the gym that I train out of, under Jimmy Taylor, which is obviously under Steve Campbell down in Manchester.
Excellent. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So obviously you've worked with a wide array of jiu-jitsu athletes. What would you say is your number one bugbear when it comes with working with people's nutrition in jiu-jitsu?
Joe Rogan. 100%. 100,000%. I've met Joe a couple of times over the years, and he seems like a lovely chap. But the unfortunate people that he chooses to have on his podcasts and give a platform to people who speak very sensationally about some things, to generally a very believing audience, means that people form very, very concrete opinions about certain things that's just not applicable in the real world, and definitely more so as you become more of an adult and have responsibilities and stuff like that. You tell any newborn dad that they have to fast for 16 hours a day when they're running on 3 hours sleep and a full-time job and other kids and other responsibilities, and see how long that lasts for when it comes to consistency. It's very sensitive. Well, it's an entertainment show at the end of the day. It's not an educational one. And that's, unfortunately, a lot of people take it as education and not entertainment. And probably just under that, I would probably say, following on, it's like social media. Everybody speaks in real absolutes about things. So the best way I can kind of describe it, and if this is bundling the two things together, is it'd be like, if I used a jiu-jitsu analogy, it would be basically me telling you that closed guard is the only guard that worked and no other guard worked in jiu-jitsu, and just really being passionate about that, despite being shown data or the Mendez brothers winning a gazillion worlds using a million different guards. It's no, closed guard, Roger Gracie, these are all fucking morons. I can swear on this podcast, right?
course, yeah. Encourage it.
Thanks,
You're in
Fox.
good company.
Good. Yeah, so it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like saying, well, fasting or carnivore or these kind of things are the only diet that works, and all of this other stuff is you're a moron if you do it. And it's just not true. It's just like nutrition very much kind of follows jiu-jitsu in the same way that it's principles over methods. If you understand what the principles are, like you can pick your methods. If I know the good principles of guard passing, not saying that I am good at guard passing, but theoretically, I know that I can pass in a minute, like I can leg drag, I can toriander, I can do loads and loads of different passes because I know the principles of guard passing or sweeps or submissions or whatever it is. If I know the principles, I can apply them in methods that fit the individual.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of way. But unfortunately, people don't think like that because it doesn't sell very well. It's much easier to sell miracle pills, unfortunately, in nutrition. So that's kind of the biggest bugbear that I have with it when it comes to combat sports.
I mean, I guess the physical demands of jiu-jitsu and combat sports are the same across all humans to some degree. Do you sort of have quite a variety of different approaches to nutrition when you're working with athletes, or do you tend to kind of work around the same principles roughly, in terms of macronutrient prescription, if you like, and things like that?
No, it's wildly individual, which is, and it's not so much down to jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu is an unbelievably hard sport to program for when it comes to nutrition versus the sport. Yeah. So we are probably, like, as a sport, like on the cusp of being pro of what you would call other sports, where people have got full pro athletes. We're now starting to see people with a lot of genetic potential come into the sport. People are training full time in very sensible ways. But when you look at practice for jiu-jitsu versus other sports, it's just an absolute clusterfuck of nothingness, like on the whole. And that's not down to coaches or anything like that, and I'm going to explain why. It's because most of the sports practices are based around intensity, whether it's technique-based or it's, 10%, 100% like that. Rolling in jiu-jitsu doesn't go that way, despite what people think in the head. You go against anybody and you say, right, I'm going to have a medium day, so we're here. But same guy, same belt level with you, it's 50-50 who's going to tap who kind of thing. And all of a sudden they go like that. So you go like that to match them. And then they go like this. So then you go like this. And then all of a sudden your 50% day is now an 80% day because fuck Dave if he's going to tap me today. Like, and that's like how it goes, you know what I mean? Or you get a massive spazzy white belt and they just try and absolutely crush you to death and you're like, all of a sudden it's hard. So what you thought you were going to burn in X amount of calories for through a session, all of a sudden you're doubling them. Or vice versa. You might, in the roles that you have no demanding roles and you want in a hard day. You might have all, 1 year white belts and you just like run through them like it's like no one's business. So it's quite hard to program for. And the only way that you're going to be able to do it is kind of, without being going like the super geeky route of how you should measure volume intensity, but is doing it on a week by week adjustment basis based on the results that you get. Now, when I set up programs, I kind of got a rough idea based on what people say, how often they're training, how hard the class of sparring in those sessions, etc. Open mats generally burn a lot more calories than what, say, a 90-minute class would that only has, 5-minute rounds of 30 minutes rolling, etc. But it's all the rest of the stuff that comes in with it. So if you're a bricklayer and you're laying brick all day and you're training 5 times a week and you've got 2 kids under 4, and you've got X, Y, and Z, and your dad's ill and you're caring for him and all this kind of stuff, your recovery requirements are going to be so much greater than what little Stevie, who's 21 and does 2 days at college and just trains jiu-jitsu, and that's the only thing he's got to worry about. His mum's cooking his meals for him, he's still living at home, he's got no responsibilities. So it's very, very different. And there's also hobbyists versus pros, which are very, very different again. Obviously, I'm speaking a lot about hobbyists here because pros are really easy to coach because they don't do anything else. When it comes the hardest thing you've got, most competitors will drink piss and howl at the moon if you tell them to do it, if they think that they're going to it's going to improve them. Compliance isn't an issue. It's actually reining them back a lot of the time, making them do less than that. But when it comes to everyday people, they're the people who require a lot more attention. But on the flip side of that, they're the people who are going to see the benefit a load more. Like, if you can get somebody to sleep better, not longer, like I'm speaking for like dads and young dads and stuff like that, because it's kind of, I imagine the audience to show. So let's say you get 5 or 6 hours sleep a night, right? Me telling you to sleep more doesn't fucking help anybody. Like, I've never thought about sleeping more, mate. Thank you very much for that useless piece of information. But if we can improve the quality of that sleep that you're getting, then we're going to start seeing the things. If we can start put good nutritious food in you that doesn't require loads of prep and crazy things, so there's no friction in you getting good food in throughout the day, and it fits within your job and your other responsibilities, then all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a greater benefit of that than pro people and stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, there's a lot of inter-individuality, but that's what nutrition coaching is, and not just getting a meal plan and waving some off into the distance. That's the different thing. It's a coaching process.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it, what you say about the intensity of jiu-jitsu and how that's really hard to kind of or really hard to program, if you like. I think the new kind of approaches that Dima's been rolling out, like the high, medium, and low, are kind of with that in mind, really, aren't they? It's about trying to sort of make practice more of a professional endeavor and try and control some of those variables. Have you ever played around with kind of sort of giving people prescriptions around their intensity and stuff like that?
Yeah, so a good thing to do is having, like, if people can wear, which Dima does, and things like that, heart rate monitors, and you're getting that data through over time, that's going to give you trends and stuff to work with. There's also like a load of other things that you can do that take a load of time. But what I found the best, like, lowest friction things that most people can do is record the number of rounds that you do in a week and the intensity of those rounds. 1 is floor rolling, 3 is fucking comp rounds, and that's it. No bigger scale than that. 1 to 3, number of rounds. And then what you're going to kind of get over time is, because I track like performance with clients, stress levels, all that kind of thing, you're going to start to see what level they can actually recover from. Most people, as if I say a wild average, please nobody come for me because there's always outliers, it's about 20 rounds a week if we're going off 5-minute rounds. There's some gyms that do loads more at 3s. There's some people who do 8s in their gym. Like, it's hard to, some people want to record minutes rolling, but that's a lot to kind of go through. So generally, if you want to start to get an idea of where your recovery demands are for jiu-jitsu, start to write down how many rounds that you do in a week, and then what you rated those rounds are. The best way to do it is in a note in your phone or on a piece of paper after your session. Don't wait to get home because you'll remember fuck all. Because you've been driving home in silence, hating jiu-jitsu, and then you don't want to write anything down by the time you get there. So yeah, that's it. The quickest, lowest friction way, and then you can look at that over time. If you're really geeky, you can start putting it into spreadsheets and stuff like that, and all that kind of thing. But that's going to give you a good idea. Your intensity of like how hard you're rolling will balance out generally week to week because you're rolling with the same people. It's not like you go, it's like, some days are going to be really hard, some days are going to be really easy, but generally over the month and weeks, it's going to balance out roughly the same. Over time, you know what I mean? It flattens out over time, which no one looks at. Everybody looks at, performance of that round, that session, that thing, but you actually like consistency beats everything. So when you zoom out far enough, that's when you start to get like a good picture. But round number is definitely a one for a lot of people, and people will notice a big difference from saying, I roll 20 rounds a week and feel fine. I'm recovering between sessions. Performance still feels great. I feel slightly run over all the time, but not like I'm dragging myself around. But then if they hit 25, they're like, I am literally like willing myself to get up to get that remote on the other end of the sofa and stuff like that. Everyone has. But unfortunately, there's this weird thing in jiu-jitsu, and it's not really weird, it's in all combat sports, that more is better. More is more. So if you are noting this rate of improvement at 10 rounds, if you do 20 rounds, then you will like improve double as fast. It's just not true.
Probably more likely to just get injured.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like as you know, in my early 40s, as you start to get older, you don't really shrug off niggles as much. And niggles also have a massive role and effect, not only in your jiu-jitsu performance, but in your overall life stress that impacts your performance. So if you're really fucked up, you can't sleep. Because you can't raise your arm above to put you under pillow. So you can't sleep on your favorite side. So your sleep's all fucked up. If you can't play with your kids, if it hurts when you pick your son up, you become pissed off at yourself because you can't play with your son as much. And then
Yeah.
you're crabby around your thing. And it's just this like roll on effect that you don't really realize, but actually those 5 extra rounds a week fuck up your life and you don't even know it. Like, because you're not paying attention to it, because you want to do more jiu-jitsu because it's fucking awesome. And I get better by doing more. But you kind of got to be a bit smarter as we kind of get a bit older and go, look, this is kind of how we do it. I'm actually going to say at this point in the podcast, I'm a nutritionist and not a coach at all. So if any coach is listening to this and go, you're fucking full of shit, trust your coach, don't trust me. This is just my opinion.
No, well, I am a jiu-jitsu coach, and I would definitely sing the same song. Really, it's working out how much training you can recover from, so that you feel good, and it's not having a negative impact on your performance. But yes, your life outside of the gym. That you're not a professional. If you're not a professional athlete, then your life outside of the gym is probably more important than your performance on the mat. So if your performance on the mat is having a detrimental effect on your life outside of the gym, then that's not good because it's a hobby. That aside,
and that's a really
your performance on the mat will be better if you can work out, like you say, the maximum amount of training that you can do and recover from, and you'll feel the benefit. Like this is something that I've kind of definitely worked out the last sort of probably 3 to 4 years, is how much I can train, and that's, for me, it's like 1 to 2 hard sessions a week, and then 1 to 2 easy sessions a week. Like usually it's 1 hard session and the rest of them like easy to moderate. And that's perfect for me, and I feel like I'm making good progress. I get everything that I need within the week, and then if there are like times where I exceed that by making a mistake, like we have an open mat, like you said, and in an open mat, I think the last time we did an open mat, I did like 15 5-minute rounds, and usually I would do say 5 or 6 5-minute rounds, and funnily enough, I got injured. And then when I reflected on it, I was like, oh, that's why, because I literally like tripled my volume in 1 week. So it's these are things that you need to work out as you go, because the coaching process isn't as micromanagey as it would be if you were playing professional rugby or football or whatever. You're doing an amateur sport, and there's a coach giving you things, and maybe you've got a good relationship, so maybe they'll give you a bit more prescription about the volume you're doing things, but really it's about you taking control of that and being responsible for that, because it's difficult to manage 100 people and how much volume all of them are doing as one man,
Massively. And it's better because if you look, like, it's the running joke, isn't it, in jiu-jitsu? You've got a 19-year-old student, you've got 3 crackheads, 4 accountants, 2 doctors, and 1 drug dealer that have all varying different ages. They're getting on with each other, but they're all applying the same as like 19-year-old down here who's, I'm just going to roll 400 times a week and I feel fantastic.
Actually, they're all comparing themselves.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. Or the worst bit is when you get the kid that's come through all the kids' classes since doing it since 7, turns 16, gets given a blue belt, and then just starts wrecking everybody. And you're like, I'm going to have to just train more. I can't have this kid just like completely smash my ego a bit. Like, but it's just the funny jiu-jitsu, isn't it?
It's a challenge, isn't it? The sort of professionality of jiu-jitsu, or lack of therein, I guess. I mean, you were saying about like Joe Rogan being the enemy. I'm interested, obviously, we know that jiu-jitsu is a very glycolytic sport. Do you have people that you've kind of used low carb or, keto or carnivore like approaches with? Like, are there people where that's appropriate, or is it just we need the carbs, like it just doesn't work?
So the truthful answer is yes. But the reason being is because that is their personal preference. It's just what they want to do. And despite whatever I say and say, look, this is the worst way that you can do it, you will get much better performance with carbohydrates. In 17 years, I've never met a single person who I cannot improve the performance of by giving them carbohydrates. And that's not me being magical. It's just literally body's preferred fuel source.
So it's kind of a buying thing, really.
Yeah. And most people who come to me, 99% of people are like, yep, I'm using you for your expertise. I'll do what you say. However, there are some people who say, I just don't want to do it. I've tried doing carnivore or no carb or low carb or whatever it is, or I keep my carbs below 50 grams a day or whatever it may be. And I just feel better. So please, can we do that? And ultimately, you are a paying client. So I'm like, yes, of course. Like, if that's what you want, we absolutely can. So, and they can still get good performance and good recovery and things like that. I try and get most people to kind of incorporate other things over time, such as like fruit and honey, general things that you can start to get these people to kind of like come round to the ways of like doing things, and then maybe a little bit of white rice and see how you feel and this kind of thing. And they will generally see good performance boosts from those type of things.
Yeah.
Well, I say generally every time they will see a good performance boost from that type of thing. But yeah, there are people who's like, this is just what I want to do. And it's like, same as anybody who comes to me who says, I want to be a vegetarian or a vegan, or I don't want to use supplements, or I don't want to do this. Like, it's no problem. It's completely bespoke to you. I am not the nutrition police. Like, I would set up any way that you want. However, if you are coming to me and go, look, I want to be the best competitor I can be, I will say, yep, that's no problem. But just your caveat is you are going to be fucking crushed by people that do eat carbohydrates. Like, and you might not have been so far, but I guarantee it's either the level of which you are competing or the number of rounds you've got to go through. Like now, if you go, let's say you go and want to do lightweight or middleweight at blue belt Euros, you're talking 7 to 12 fights on average to podium, not to win, to podium. So, like, it's massive. So if you think that you can do that just on your body's non-existent glycogen stores, like, I'm not going to tell you that you can't, but when all of a sudden by, round 4 of some of the best people in the world, you feel as though, oh, I don't feel as though I have any pop. It just doesn't feel like me out there. It's because you're used to training very small volume of rounds in the gym and still feel good on what you're eating, but it's not scaled up to the requirements of that competition. Now, if it's a hobbyist who's like, I just feel great just eating eggs and meats. Like, all I want to do is I want to lose a bit more body fat. I want to be healthy. Great, no problem. We can easily work with that. But there's a massive gap between being healthy, losing a bit of fat, building a bit more muscle, being a bit stronger, and being one of the best in the world. That gap is ridiculous. Like, so again, it's very scaled to the person. But yeah, that's a very long answer to yes.
Here's a question for you, and this is one I've sort of tried to answer, but I'm not a pro nutritionist, so I'm sure you'll answer it better to me. When people sort of are doing fasting and training in a fasted state, often, and I've experienced this myself actually, often they feel kind of like sharper and lighter and they feel good, but we know it's a heavily glycolytic sport. And, the session's an hour and a half. Like, there's no way that they're going to be performing at their best. But what is that kind of creates that feeling of sharpness when people are in this fasted state?
So there's a couple of things that are in effect there. So if we go for just fasted, so they are eating carbohydrates in their feeding window of whatever it may be, you still will have processed glycogen in your system for that session. And it's generally an early morning session. So you still have accessible fuel to be able to do it. So that plays a part. The second is the placebo effect. You just are being told that this is how you will feel. Like, the general thing for fasting is that you will feel better cognitive improvements, you will feel lighter, you will feel sharper. Like, hunger, like, plays that part as well. When you are hungry, your body starts signaling for things like that. So it's a combination of a couple of things that are like at play there. But generally, for most people, it's not even my opinion on it. The huge amount of meta analysis across all data just proves that performance improves so much with being in a fed, like with being fed with carbohydrate, having full glycogen stores. It's huge. Now, it might be volume of rounds that you do on a morning as well. Like, obviously, you can like produce a small amount of energy early on, but if the sessions are long, then you will notice performance lagging. There is also something at work in jiu-jitsu, which is a massive skill disparity. Like, you may feel great like against other people of a similar size and skill ability level as you, or slightly worse. But if I bring in someone 2 divisions heavier than you, that's a lot better than you, all of a sudden you won't feel as strong anymore and as sharp. You will feel like, you're getting wrong. So there's a lot of different things like at work that can contribute negatively or positively towards it. Unfortunately, we don't exist in a vacuum of things where I've just done this one thing and therefore, uh, correlation equals causation. So because I've had less carbohydrate, I still feel okay. Like, there's a great tale. I can't remember who said it. I want to say it was the late John Meadows that said it to me. But basically, in summer, the number of ice cream sales goes up massively. Okay. But roughly in the same kind of percentage trend as well, so does drownings in rivers. Therefore, yep, it's getting hotter. People have ice cream. People swim in more rivers, right? But it's roughly about the same. So therefore, ice cream drowns people.
That makes sense.
Because, yeah, that's what the science says. Like, there. It's blatantly there. They would go up in the same, more ice cream sales, more drowns in river.
That's our clip for this episode on Instagram.
That's the same, right?
I did really well. I got through it so far.
We'll delete the rest.
Yeah.
That's the sound
This is the headline.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mike says ice cream drowns people. Like, that'll do. Fuck it. I love that. Yeah, so it's a very bizarre answer that you can feel like it is very, very individual. Like, carbohydrate amount is a different thing as well. So some people feel great on 100 grams of carbs. Give them 200 grams of carbs and they start to feel a bit lethargic, and it's down to digestion rate and things like that, and their perception of what they're eating, and there's like quite a few things at play. What I will generally say for most athletes that I work with over a long period of time, when we have like off-season periods or periods of where they are not competing, I am always actively moving their calories up. Without if they're a serious competitor, we're not moving out of like weight class things, and that I can bring them down in, but we're trying to bump up the number of calories, particularly carbohydrates, that they can eat, generally because they perform loads better, they recover so much better, and then next time they come around to dieting down for comps or whatever it may be, they start on so much higher calories than what they were before. So pretty much everybody that I work with, I am looking to increase it, unless they turn around and say, I don't want to do that, which again is a completely personal choice and one I'm not far or against.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? You sort of, when you're working with clients who've maybe had some issues around the amount they're eating, I'm not going to necessarily say it's an eating disorder, but if they've got that sort of mindset about being worried about eating too much, it can be hard to sort of push people's calories up because there's a bit of resistance there. So you've got to kind of work with that resistance a little bit, haven't you?
No, it's a definite conversation that no one's kind of having on at the moment. Is like, I've talked about it on my socials before, and it's a massive topic, and one that's very much outside my scope of talking about. It's not my lane at all. But outside being injured in jiu-jitsu, the biggest harm I see for jiu-jitsu is creating eating disorders massively. Like, it just is like, you get people, especially females, who have had their entire lives where being lighter is a focus and being less on a scale is a focus, and then you put people into a sport that is weight class focused, and the general thing is lighter is better. In most kind of things, lighter is better, like, which isn't true at all, but it does create like disordered eating. If you take jiu-jitsu out of it and you look at most jiu-jitsu patterns of eating and you didn't know the jiu-jitsu, you would look at things that they just fucking ate what they like and binged all year round till the competitions come up, and then they just eat boiled chicken and lettuce for 4 weeks and train more than can, so they can weigh a certain amount on the scale, and then they binge ridiculously again. Like, it's just a really bad way to do it. And I do think it creates, it can, in certain people, create disordered eating massively.
Definitely. I see it with the MMA fighters at our gym. Are really, really, not all of them, some of them are good, but I've seen some bad stuff in the past.
Bad cuts.
not just even the bad cuts, it's more just like, the behaviors around like being so strict leading into the weigh in, and then the refeed. Again, all these things are usually done really professionally, but then what happens after the fight is just heinous, like binging, just heinous binging, and weight, like, Paddy the baddie, whatever his name is, like, he's a prime example. His weight just swings so dramatically.
He's a terrible role model for that, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's at high level, he's probably going to get a title shot soon.
Yeah.
I will interject at that because I know Paul Reed, who's his nutritionist, who's an excellent nutritionist, by the way, chaps. And it is very much Paddy, but he does it a lot less than what he used to.
The thing is, you can be a great nutritionist, can't you? You can work with a client, but you're not with them all the time making sure they're doing the right thing. So the client has to take responsibility.
The amount of people that like just go completely MIA like after like the competition is nuts. And the trick is to try and manage it. It's same with like, it's a more extreme thing of just dieting in total. Like if you imagine like a pendulum, like the more you pull it one way, the bigger the swing the other way is going to be. So if you think of that as restriction, the more you restrict and, really, really do it, like sometimes well beyond what you actually need to be doing. And then when all of a sudden you let it go and it's over, the swing the other way is where they've got nothing to counter to, is they're going wild. So if you're dieting yourself and trying to get below it, you're going to have to restrict something because you're trying to create caloric deficit that will give you the fat loss, etc., that you want if you are dieting. But try and just move it enough to get what you need. Like, when people start dieting, like they're like, oh, well, what you doing? Oh, well, I've started dieting. No one ever says, oh, well, I've dropped my 10 pints a week to 5 pints a week. I've made my portions a little bit smaller and I've started to make sure I get 10,000 steps. It's no, now I train 7 times a week. I'm running every morning. I only eat lettuce. I'm fasting. I've seen these new supplements advertised that I'm going to start to. It's like they pull it that way straight away. Where just pull it enough to start getting the response that you need. When that stops working, you might have to pull it a little bit more. And then at times, depending on how much weight and things that you've got to lose, you might pull it for a little bit and then take a break and just move it back to the middle for a week or so. Because everybody's only human, and being hungry is the easiest way to destroy willpower ever. If you make people hungry enough, they fucking eat each other. You know what I mean? It's a fact. It's so you don't need to just try and go all that way. But unfortunately, especially in combat sports, thanks to social media and a lot of others, being unbelievably harsh and extreme and all the way thing is a viewpoint that is rewarded. Moderation in combat sports is not something that people think is a good idea. That's for pussies.
Boring as fuck.
Yeah, it's boring as fuck. It's for pussies. It's it's not what we do here. It's we need to do everything all at once.
Yeah. And do you think it's also tied in with the fact that people are the culture that we live in? We're looking for that quick magic fix. So we want to just 100%. Do all of it so that it's not going to be a 6-month progression. It's going to be a 1-2 week progression in theory.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not sustainable, is it?
It is, yeah. Because and it's no one's fault really. It's just because everything we lend in our lives to goes that way. If you think about when we were younger, I was how you find yourself becoming your dad, where you're telling your kids you don't know what it was like when we were kids and Well, I was telling my son the other day, is your granddad used to have a bath in a tin bath in front of a fire, you know what I mean? And they look at his face and he was like, yeah, that's bullshit, that mate. No one's ever done that. Did he live in a cave? But then it kind of dawned on me and I was like, holy shit, that was 1 generation ago, or a little bit above 1 generation ago, You think the technological advance, from there to now, even just showing them the internet, or you know what I mean, or anything like that. Everything in our life is designed for we want it now. You're not pissed off you get your phone if it takes more than 10 seconds to load something that you want to watch. Yeah. You know what I mean? Crazy, and we grew up with dial-up. Looks at you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yes.
If we wanted to listen to a song, we had to wait for 40 minutes on LimeWire and give our computer cancer.
And it still might not work.
It was still bollocks. So now if it takes 10 seconds, we're absolutely I was trying to sort that microphone out before we came on here, and because I couldn't get it working with the camera before I was in, it's across the room because I was raging that I couldn't figure it out in 2 seconds. Like,
and we are a product of that. I forget that. I always worry about my sons, being a product of technology and stuff. But like, we are really the first sort of generation that really are a product of growing up in that like technological age.
Yeah. We're like a crossover, aren't we? Because we remember before, but we're still a victim to it.
Yeah, because our formative years were heavily influenced by the internet, computer games, technology, phones coming in, all these things.
So we were the last one. We were the last one that didn't really have it. But if you think how fast it advances, like even like the technology that our kids have got now will seem like a tin bath, beyond a tin bath to their kids.
100%.
Like, just be like, it'll be so. Because a product of that is we want everything faster. We want our food now. We want, you know what it is, right? We get our information now. Like, and I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing because obviously I wouldn't have a job without it. But if we wanted to learn something before, we had to look it up and read and stuff like that. Now there is no barrier to entry to gain information. I can form an opinion without having to do anything. Like how many white belts now have unbelievable opinions on how training should be done, despite never doing anything, because they have seen things online and they have just now gathered an opinion but not gathered knowledge. This is a very different thing, you know what I mean?
So surface level,
this is nice. This is a nice segue actually into something that I wanted to talk to you about. You commented on one of our posts about TRT.
Yes, I did.
That'd be an interesting thing to talk about. Obviously, the segue is like, there's so much conflicting information online. You can find people like Joe Rogan, because we mentioned him earlier, talking positively about it, but then there are other people talking negatively about it, and it's becoming a more popular kind of intervention. What are your thoughts about using TRT as you get older into your 40s and 50s?
So a couple of things before we start. Obviously, got to cover myself and be a rational human being. Firstly, I'm not an expert on PED use, things like that. TRT, I have my own experience because I am on it. There is a fantastic guy that everyone should follow who I have actually recently convinced to start doing jiu-jitsu, which is a guy called Joe Jeffrey. He's called Joe Physique Collective on Instagram, who is a phenomenally amazing person in this field and who I pick the brains of daily on it. Who I went to when I was thinking about making the leap and things like that. So secondly, after that, TRT covers quite a lot in jiu-jitsu when we talk about it. Okay, TRT means, for anyone who doesn't know, testosterone replacement therapy. If you're doing true TRT, just put your testosterone back into the range that it is supposed to be. So generally when you look at blood work, if no one ever has, it's generally a range. And where you fall in that range is where your levels are. Now, people who need TRT are generally towards the end or out of range. What it'll do is bring it back into range. So everything works as normal. When you move out of range on the other end, that is doing performance-enhancing drugs. That is doing steroids.
Right.
Okay. So most people, and it covers both things in jiu-jitsu. However, a lot of people will claim doing TRT, but they are doing PEDs, they're doing steroids. You know what I mean? They're like, put it this way, if they are 40 and they are unbelievably just jacked to bits, and they haven't been for their entire life, or they're all of a sudden made a mass transformation, chances are they're probably a little bit over this way. Now, medically, if you are out of range and or on the very, very low end of the range, it will do a lot for you to be in range. You will feel fantastic. It will make cognitively, you will feel fantastic. You'll think better. You'll perform better. You'll recover better. Your overall well-being will be so much better as well. For a lot of people worry about health benefits when it comes to this kind of thing. There will be generally no negatives with being in range because it's where your body is supposed to be. If you go through the doctor in a private clinic, they will still do regular blood work to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. They will still get you to do things like make sure your blood pressure. Everybody over 35 should be doing the blood pressure regularly anyway, even just once a week. It's a silent killer that gets us all, and things like that. So there will be checks in place to make sure that you are staying healthy. What most people do is say they are on TRT, don't get any blood work done, just start taking huge amounts of testosterone, and then they run into health complications. So it's not those. Now, there is also a term which applies to most jiu-jitsu, people who do it in jiu-jitsu, myself included, which is generally called TRT plus, which generally means that they are keeping themselves at the very top end of the range here. So it's probably...
That's what did you say that's where you're sort of trying to sit?
Yes, it is.
What led up to you starting? Did you have low T?
Yes, I did. So I was at like 0.2 and I was at the other end of the range. But I didn't think I had any negative side effects. I thought my training was good. I thought my recovery was good. I thought my mood was good. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel as though I had like any negative effects from it. And then when I was talking to Joe about it, he was like, what would you say to somebody who came to you and said that? I said, well, yeah, they are. They just don't know it. And as soon as I did, I realized that, yes, I absolutely were having negative effects about it. Just the effects were like dwindled down over time. So my perception of, we were our own worst critic, you know what I mean? Like our perception of it was nowhere where it should have been. It was terrible. But
well, I always say that when someone comes and sees me, I'm a personal trainer, often like they have been feeling shit for so long, their baseline of what good is down here. And like if they started eating right, exercising, and doing all the things they should do, they realize their baseline should be here. And that's how people that we train feel, but they just don't realize that that's even a possibility because they're so low. It's like, I feel fine. It's like, dude, let's get you actually up and you'll see what fine feels like. You just don't have a reference point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so I did. So generally when people talking about doses for how much to take is very, very individual. Generally for TRT is generally between 80 to 150 milligrams per week of testosterone that people take. I personally take 200, so I'm a little bit over that. Could make the argument that if I wanted to pass a drug test with that, I would, because I'm at the very top end of the range. However, I've never seen a fully natural person at the top end of the range. Like the range is there, but I've never seen anybody with it. People may exist with it, but if somebody said like to me, "Oh, are you like natural?" I would say, "No, I am not." Like this, I would tell them openly about what I'm doing. The problem is that a lot of people don't, and claim that they're not on anything or they're on TRT when they're actually blasting loads. But when you get out of this and you start taking loads and loads and loads, that is doing PEDs and steroids, and that's a different thing. The risk goes up as you start to do that. You know what I mean? It's definitely not a risk-free thing.
So obviously we have the range, we have like the optimal range from what the lowest acceptable reading is to the highest acceptable. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is there not like a sliding scale as to like, let's say we're in the middle of the range, no health risks from low, no health risks from it being too high. If we're pushing up towards the top end of the range, are we increasing those risks of complications or?
That is very inter-individual. Because there's always going to people who do. So I'm never going to say that there's not. However, the chances are small. What I would generally say for anybody who wants to do this and go down this route, get a blood test done. You can get them done very easily now. It's just a finger prick at home, and it'll tell you where you are. If you are on the lower end or out of range, to qualify for it, to get it, you will need to take a secondary blood test. What I would do then is either, if you go in the private route, the place where you get the drug test done will probably say, "Oh, you need to get another test," and then we'll refer you to a private clinic. That's a much faster way to get it done. There's a lot of doctors out there who will push hard against you going on TRT for whatever reason. Or you can take it to your doctor and go, "Look, if your doctor's got anything about him, he'll go, well, we'll get you a blood test done, look at it, yeah, we can see that you're low, we're going to start you." What they'll do is they'll start you on what they believe will be the amount to bring you like into the healthy range. And then they will probably leave you there for about 2 to 3 months and then do more blood tests and then adjust based on that. It's a very kind of adjustment-based process. And when they've got everything right, they will leave you there and then you will still take blood tests periodically. It is not a miracle thing beyond you will all of a sudden get unbelievably shredded and massive and things like that. If you move to the middle of the range, you will have the same testosterone that you probably did when you were like 19. in your early
Yeah,
20s.
yeah.
So that's kind of like how you're going to be. It's not going to turn you in, a huge, massive, roided out monster overnight. They require large amounts of doses. But to do it properly in the safest way possible, you do it slowly, you take regular blood tests, you keep eye on other health markers. So, excuse me. That's the best way to do it. The problem in jiu-jitsu and combat sports is that a lot of people are masking heavier use under doing TRT, which is why the UFC at a certain point banned TRT. Because they was like, oh, I'm on TRT, I've got a prescription from my doctor. That's why my test is 3,000 milligrams. And they're like, oh yeah. Oh, thank you, Alistair Overeem. Please come in and fight. And that's when obviously they changed it and got involved with stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I get in combat sports with punching and kicking, I think it really increased the risk of problems.
Yes.
You know? If you are super maximal testosterone or whatever steroid you're using, and you can really deliver like some power, like that's a problem, isn't it? I think in grappling, we can get into fair play and things like that, but like there's less risk of someone getting injured, isn't there?
Injured, yeah. And trust and training partners. The only thing that, like, I will say is at the moment, if you are taking, let's call TRT, like what it's supposed to be, and for the purpose of this conversation, steroids is taking more than that.
Yeah.
If you are taking steroids and you compete, and it is against the rules of where you compete, you are cheating.
Yes, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like you have cheated to win. Cheated. Could not speak well then. So that's everybody's own personal thing, whether they do or don't do it. Some organizations have no testing. It's not against the rules. You know what I mean? Like you can go to ADCC and juice the fuck out of whatever you like. CGI, I don't think there was any drug testing in CGI.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, right? Yeah. Why in the first CGI, when there was $1 million on the line, everybody wasn't juiced out of their fucking mind? I will never know.
Yeah, you'd use it if you could, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're literally saying, right, if you win this, you're going to get life-changing money. You know what I mean? Like, more than most people will see in a lifetime, never mind pro jiu-jitsu athletes.
Yeah.
And you can take whatever the hell you like to do it. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I'd be like, all of it.
Yeah.
Like,
green light for all of it, please.
I'd be question. If you say, so I got my test done recently, and I was in the like kind of, it was like 650. I can't remember what the UK marker was. It maybe 20, something like that. I can't remember because there's different what sort of. Yeah. Anyway, it was about 650, which I think is sort of medium to top end in my age group.
Yep.
If I said, right, I'm going to take a really small amount to get it up to that top end, as far as I understand, I'd have to keep taking that all the time after that because my natural test would stop producing. Is that right?
Yeah, so sort of. So firstly, you probably won't notice a big difference from it if you did. It wouldn't be a noticeable difference. If you go from
I'm not thinking of doing that.
I was just going to say
more like just an interesting thought process.
Yeah. I don't want this to be a how-to for everybody. But like, so if you were at the lower end, right, and you move to the middle of the range or the top end, you will notice a difference, a big difference in your life. If you're in the middle of the range to the top of the range, you probably won't notice that much of a difference. What happens is if you start taking extraneous testosterone, i.e. you are injecting it or rubbing it on with the cream, your body recognizes that and it stops making testosterone. Okay. What happens then when you come off is your body goes, oh shit, where's my testosterone? And it might take a bit of time for it to, basically, if you're a healthy male, to reactivate and start producing some testosterone. The longer that you stay on, like TRT and injecting, it'll reflect how long it takes for your body to kick back in and, start producing its own testosterone again. If you are chronically on the lower end, like B, my argument would be, personally, not professional, why would I come in? Bear in mind, when I made the decision that I was going to do it, I was 41. I had 2 children, and I had the snip. So, like that, I wasn't planning on any more children. I'm not going to have any more children. I'm married, settled down. Da, 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 da. It was very, very low. It was a decision that I made. 10 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have made that decision.
Sure.
So I think it's very different for kind of people in later life to make it versus somebody hearing this who's like 25 and thinking, jump on. These are very, very different. But again, this is probably not the audience of the podcast people listening. So yes, you could, especially if you wanted to even do it you could do it, like try it for a bit, see how you feel for a couple of months, and then come off. And then if you were in the middle of the range or middle, it would probably go back to what it was pretty okay. But I would never, if you're in the middle of the range, I wouldn't do it.
No.
I really wouldn't.
For me, it was, like being where it was, I was like, I wouldn't consider it. It's fine, basically. Obviously, the things that I'm doing in my life are keeping it where it is, and that's good. If it was low, then I would have probably considered it. But it's fine, basically. So
if you're in your, say, someone in the early 40s, and say you went on TRT and then would you, if you came off, how long would it take, obviously roughly speaking across the average, how long would it take for your body to start producing to the level you're at before you started taking it?
Again, it's very individual, but I would probably say anywhere between like 6 to 12 weeks as an average. But again, I'm not an expert in this kind of area, so this is kind of like consult your physician for more clarity.
That's interesting. I was under the impression that just your body.
Yeah, I thought it was done then. Yeah, just didn't.
No. It's not like taking a hammer to your or anything. Like it's not quite that bad. Speaking of when you do go on, your sex drive will go ballistic though. Like that's something that for some strange reason nobody talks about, because you do become 19-year-old you again. So if you have a partner, please have that conversation with her. Otherwise, she's going to wonder why you kind of
I'm going to be randomly a nightmare.
yeah. You think it's bad now? Just wait. I've got the Christmas present for you. Yeah. So I do tell that people the clients are going out saying, look, just have this kind of conversation first, because they are going to notice, and have that conversation. Like when I was doing it, like despite what people think, my wife is a very, very conservative, quite straight-laced woman. And I sat down with her and said, look, this is what I'm doing. And like most people, she just sees testosterone, needles. Oh my God, my husband's now a spacker. And I kind of explain it through it and stuff like that. And this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And then obviously she was fine with it. But please, if you've got a partner, tell them about it. Don't be sneakily trying to find injections in cupboards and stuff like that. It's just stupid.
Not a good way for her to find out, is it?
No, and they'll find out. They know anyway.
I feel dodgy when I've got syringes to drain cauliflower ears.
I don't. This is a really random one. Speaking of syringes, right? That everybody feels, especially when it you probably even can't see my colleagues either. Like that, just find my ears sticking out. But a lot of people feel really bad when they get needles because they've got to go to the heroin clinics and stuff like that, and I don't want to go to that, and I feel terrible. You should buy them online. It's like a $5. I don't know why I see so many people go, I hate it. I'd rather just deal with it because I don't want to go sit in that clinic and everyone thinks I'm a smackhead. I was like, just buy them.
They're not on the internet.
Yeah. I believe you can buy them on Amazon now. You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not illegal paraphernalia that you are buying, like the insulin syringes for diabetics. If people have don't want to drain the colleagues, just go on Amazon. You can get them next day delivered.
Mike, that was a really great episode. I really enjoyed that. Some really good combo there. Hopefully some stuff that people can kind of take away around the nutrition and the TRT if they want to take away and kind of, make some informed decisions about their approach to certain things when it comes to supporting their health and performance. Where can people kind of get hold of you? How can they get in touch if they want to work with you or learn from you?
So you can find me on pretty much every social media platform under Unorthodox Nutrition. Website is unorthodoxnutrition.co.uk. If anybody's got any questions or anything like that around anything, they just want to help and handle stuff, I run a free Q&A every Friday on Instagram, or you can just drop me a message and I'm always happy to help anybody.
Nice. Get on that
Brilliant,
free Q&A, guys, because that's some really good information there.
Absolutely.
And just to clear up some of those misconceptions around when you should be eating and what to eat and all those kind of things. It's really useful, and it will really benefit your jiu-jitsu and your performance on the mats and just in general life as well. So yeah, hit Mike up for sure. We'll definitely have you back on because there's loads more stuff that I wanted to talk about, but time is pressing. Hopefully you could hear us, guys, because we didn't have the mics and there's people doing gas works outside and it's hectic. So we'll try and get the audio cleared up. But yeah, thanks for Mike for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's been great to meet you, man.
Thanks for having me. Chaps, anytime. Love to come back.
Great.
No worries, man. Thanks, Mike.
See you later.
See you later.
All right, guys, let's bow there and then we'll call it a day.